Finding probabilities when given z-scores. When using table A-2, it is essential to understand these points. Table A-2 is designed only for the standard normal distribution, which is a normal distribution with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Table 2 is on 2 pages, with the left page for negative z-scores and the right page for positive z-scores. Each value in the body of the table is a cumulative area from the left up to a vertical boundary above a specific z-score. When working with a graph, avoid confusion between z-scores and areas. Now, z-scores refer to the leftmost column and top row of table A2. And the area is the region under the curve, and it refers to the values in the body of the table A2. And a part of the z-score denoting hundredths is found across the top row of table A2. So here's what they're saying here. So the top row has the hundredths, and you can see here that this column here represents up to the 10th place. Now in the body of it, the table, is the probabilities, or the areas. So let's figure out where you would need to find this in the textbook. So if we go to any chapter, we'll just go to chapter 6 in this case. We're going to select the e-text. So we'll go to the chapter opener here. That's going to open up the textbook. And now once the textbook is open up, then we can go ahead and then view and find where we can find this table at. So in order to do this, over here, these are the table of contents. So you want to go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you see where it says Appendix A, Tables and Formulas. We'll go ahead and do that. And then up at the top, we can X out of this so we can see a little bit better. Now, if we want to expand this a little more, over here you will see Display Settings. And then you can then zoom in a little bit bigger. So then you can see the table a lot better. So if we scroll to the right, because this is the page for binomial probabilities, if we scroll to the right, then we're going to see the negative z-scores. So these are all the negative z-scores, and this is the table for that. And then if we go one more, we're going to see the positive z-scores. And if you notice, this is all the area to the left. Okay, now, in this case here, in this problem, what it's done is we're looking at the z-score of 1.33. So if you take a look here at the bottom here at 1.33, okay, we're looking at 1.3, and then the top part is the hundredth place, and that gives us 1.33. You can see what the area that's given. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this would look on the graph. So you're going to want to get used to drawing this bell curve because you'll be doing it quite a bit. Okay, so the mean is 0. And so this value right here represents the z-score where it's less than the value of 1.33. And that area is given right here, which is 0.9082. So here we get the area, or the probability, of 0.9082. So again, in the body of the table, it's always going to give you the areas to the left. Now, if we take a look at the graph on the right, we're looking at the same z-score, but in this case, we're looking at greater than 1.33. Now, since we're not able to get the area in the body of the table for the right, what we need to do is we need to take into consideration of the area under the curve. We know the area under the curve is 1. And then if we subtract the area to the left of this, the area to the left you can see is 0.9082. So let's go ahead and then do that on our calculator. So if we take 1 and then subtract 0.9082, well, that gives us an area of 0.0918. 0.0918. So when you think of this as a percentage, this is 90.82%. That's what's being covered here, that's shaded. Over here, this is being 9.18%. Now, let's take a look at another z-score. Okay, let's take a look at a negative z-score. Okay, so in this case here, we're looking at the negative z-score. In this case here, this is going to be the z-score where it's going to be less than negative 1.17. So let's take a look. So this is negative 1.1, and then we're going to come down to 0.07, and then you can see what that area is going to represent. And that area is going to represent the following. To the left of that z-score is 0.1210. So therefore this area, or this probability, is 0.1210. Now over here we have the same z-score, but we're finding the shaded part we want to say is greater than negative 1.17. Well, again, in order to find the area that's greater than, we know the area under the curve is 1, and then we're going to subtract the area to the left, which is what we found here on the left-hand side, which is 0.1210. So let's go ahead and find that. So if we take our calculator and take 1 and then subtract 0.1210, we get 8790. So we get 0.8790. So again, in order to find the area to the right, we need the area to the left. We're going to take 1 and then subtract the area to the left. Okay, now what happens if we have a z-score, or the area that's in between? So let's say that we have a z-score here that represents the z-score of, and we can say that everything to the left there is going to be less than negative 1.17, and then this z-score is going to represent where it's less than 1.33. So what we're going to do is to find the area in the middle. When we're using the table, what we need to do is we need to find the area that's to the left and that's the same thing as saying z, which is less than 1.33, and then we're going to subtract the area to the left of negative 1.17, and that's the same thing as saying z, which is less than negative 1.17. So let's go back up here. What was the area to the left of 1.33? Well, that's 0.9082. So we have 0.9082. And then we're going to subtract the area to the left of z, which is less than negative 1.17, and that gives us 0.1210. So when we subtract those two areas, let's go ahead and do that. 0.9082 minus 0.1210, that gives us an area of 0.7872. which then represents the area that's in the middle. And so that's how we find the areas using the table. Now, just as a reference, cumulative areas from the left, the following provide the cumulative areas from the left up to a vertical line above a specific value of z. Well, table A-2, which is what we will be using this course, and also StatCrunch. Now, the TI-84 also does that, but we're not going to be using that in this course. Okay, now, areas between two boundaries, The following provide the area bounded on the left and bounded on the right by vertical lines above specific values. Now we have the TI-83 or stack crunch, and we also just saw that table A-2 can also give us the values that are in between. Now caution, when working with a normal distribution, be careful to avoid confusion between z-scores and areas.